Vanguard International Solutions is a privately held company. It's my main objective, Kai, is to start a wholesale distribution company with focus on international supply chain and sourcing. So if you've seen my LinkedIn profile, my background has always been in sourcing and supply chain. I've been in this industry for a little over 15 years. I work for a small or mid-sized privately held company called TradeX, and we were bought over by the giant, pharmaceutical company Cardinal Health about 5 years back. So as part of the acquisition, I went and worked with Cardinal Health for about 3 years. I left them in 2018, Jan of 2018, and I started Vanguard International Solutions. And what we do initially, because of my non-compete, I was mostly focused on supply chain solutions, which is still in my core competency and core focus. But on top of it, we also are focused on developing a wholesale distribution for medical, industrial, and food service products. And I had an year non-compete with Cardinal, and also I've had such a good relationship with them. I didn't want to get back into sourcing or distribution and compete with them directly. So I worked in supply chain solutions. So what it essentially means, Kai, is I help companies with their supply chain, operations and sourcing and stuff like that. And I help them out mostly with international sourcing because of my background. I have, as I've told you, I have extensive background with customs, logistics, and also FDA-related issues. So I help companies, source product from overseas, make sure that their product is compliant with FDA, they have all the documentation and stuff like that. So that was the focus on the core competency when I started the company. And since about a year, I have started distributing medical products too, under Vanguard, the VGuard, brand. We supply gloves, gauze, bandages, non-wovens, and stuff like that to small, mid-size, and large distributors all across U.S.
Wow. And, it's like those things have such a big impact, right? And you may not hear about it every day, but when you think about the medical industry and everything that's going on in different people's lives across the U.S., that ultimately is helping to deliver a really important service that people need, which is healthcare. So yeah.
Absolutely. Like the crisis we are going through right now is a perfect example, right? We have had this coronavirus, and I know we talk about it, we see about that in the news, but it has a real impact in what I do, because I do have some manufacturing partnerships in China, and we make masks in our factory, face masks, gowns, they call them footies and hoodies, like the non-woven coveralls. And it has had a huge impact in the last 2 or 3 weeks, because the country has come literally out of the stock, stock on masks, and China is going through a crisis, their own crisis. So we have been gathering a lot of product and donating it back to China so that they can get some masks and gowns. So it's kind of interesting how the global supply chain is so interconnected nowadays.
It is. Well, that's great. That actually ties into some questions that I have for you later on. So just really quickly, I wanted to touch briefly on our kind of relationship between Acuity and Vanguard Solutions. So, we've been working together for just over a year now, and you've been partnered with, I believe, Lisa, a dedicated bookkeeper during that time. So I kind of want to hear just briefly, what has the experience been like having Acuity handle your financials each month and deliver data insights?
As of now, as you speak, it has been tremendous, Kai, and I have actually recommended your services to multiple of my customers. Not that I am young, but I still consider myself to be a young entrepreneur. And when you look at the technology, right, it's amazing, how things have evolved. When I started, working for a company, we used to have, traditional accountants, matching books, and then, cleaning up the ledgers and everything. about the ease of doing business. That's the beauty of technology nowadays. And this is a true example of how two companies, and, I've not seen one person personally from your company, but I've spoken to multiple people and how they are helping me, run, a good sized business. In a year, we went from, almost 2 million to, a little over $13 million. And it's all done online. The ease of doing business, the way, we communicate, and, the clarity and the transparency is phenomenal. And that tells you the future, right? That tells you how, the technology is going to shape up the business models for companies like us, and, making it much more efficient. And, concentrating on, what's more important, right? Because my core competency is not, cleaning up my books. My core competency is providing services to my customer, and I can, dedicate that much more time to what I'm really good at, and still at the same time, be confident about my books being, all matched up, clean, and all that good stuff running efficiently. Because every business which has to be successful has to have clear set of books in my eyes.
Absolutely. That's powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. We really appreciate that feedback. And, we don't ever expect it. We know we have to earn it, but it's great when we receive it. I know that we've, hopefully been delivering some great service to you and continue to do so. We've really enjoyed building a valued relationship with you during this time. And I saw that you also talk about relationship management, right, in your own business. And that's something that sets you apart. So I kind of wanted to hear from you, maybe what are some ways in which you've fostered better relationships with your customers?
The biggest and the most important reason, Kai, is, honesty and transparency and efficiency. These are the three main mantras for my company. You have to be honest in terms of, what you're communicating to your customer and what you're selling and how you're selling that product to your customers, because that sets you apart. And that's what, creates and, maintains the relationship. Because, if you're smart, you can fool, some people, maybe initially. I mean, I'm saying fool, maybe you can entice them into getting business or giving you business.
Right.
But after that, it's all your service, right? What you have promised them and how you are keeping up your promise. And that, for me, is very powerful. And that has been, what I was trained when I was working with TradeX, and also when I worked in Cardinal Health, is making sure you promise what you can deliver and you deliver that consistently. And that comes from being very honest with your customers, giving them information and telling them the reality about the market. And also what's very powerful, Kai, is transparency. With the way technology has moved in the last couple of decades, it is very important for you to be as transparent as possible to the customers, not just in terms of communication, but also in terms of the entire supply chain, making sure they're getting notifications in time, making sure they're aware of international situations like what we just talked about, how coronavirus, which is impacting the health of thousands of people, is also impacting supply chain in multiple sectors where people don't see that, people don't talk about that, right? All people are talking about is yes, there is a virus, which is a tragedy, and people are losing lives and getting infected by it, but it has multiple effects where about 50 million people are quarantined in the US, and about 13 or 14 last count cities in China have been completely under lockdown. How people are not getting out, there are roadblocks. So what happens is, when you have product coming from China, even though the product is ready and the ships are available to sail, who is going to move that product from the factory to the ports, where if there are multiple roadblocks, or if the local government is kind of quarantining the whole areas, it becomes a challenge. And how do you handle those challenges? How do you make sure you handle them properly, and also communicate back to your customer in a way so that they are not panicking. At the same time, they also know the gravity of situation, right? So it's all about that transparency in the communication. And the third and the most important thing is efficiency. Keeping it very, very simple. You're not rocket scientists. It's basic. Movement of product from point A to point B, and what are you doing to make it as simple as possible? Taking out all those noise, or waste, which is which all but adds weight onto the whole process. So how do you take out all that noise? How do you keep it as simple as possible? So when your customer talks to you, or when your customer is trying to get information, he exactly gets what he needs, rather than getting a run around for 15 or 14 people trying to figure out what's going to happen. So those have been the three most important things driving the success for Vanguard International.
That's great. Yeah, and like a lot, those values are very similar to those of Acuity. So, it makes sense that we make a great pair. Transparency is huge on our list, and that's something that we're always striving for, is how to be more proactive and informative and transparent. And also, you talk about efficiency, right? When I hear that word, and also like trying to make things easier for people, it reminds me of the word facilitation. That's really what we're involved in on a day in, day out basis, right? Is facilitating, making things easier for people, making their lives easier. And that's a great thing.
No,
So yeah.
absolutely. You guys have been phenomenal, as I said, and I'm not saying that because we are talking about equity, and I'm talking to you. I've said it to multiple people, and you guys are a great example on how you've helped me, not just with accounting. You recommended me my HR partner Gusto, who have been again phenomenal, and
Gusto is
also
amazing.
Guideline. Yeah,
and Guideline, yes,
which
I
is,
love them both.
yeah. So it's I'm practically running my business. I can run my entire business through my cell phone. That's how easy it is right now. With the way I'm working. Like I use Zero, which is what you guys are helping me out with. So it's all interrelated. And as I said, when you look at it, this is not hundreds of years, right? This is my own personal experience when I started as an intern, where at World Trade Center versus where I am right now. It's day and night. Everything is so much more efficient, much transparent. So what you do is you concentrate more on what you're good at, rather than getting bogged down on looking at books and saying, okay, where's my cash flow? What am I making? Am I in the right state of, how healthy is my business? And, can I buy more product and stuff like that? So you guys have been phenomenal.
That's great. Yeah. And so it sounds like, it's kind of allowed you to find more happiness and joy in your job, because you're not having to focus on some of those more like maintenance and technical pieces, and you're able to dream bigger about the things in the future that you want to do. And that's really exciting and empowering. Another question I had was, of course, Vanguard is also a global company with seasoned international experience, as you mentioned. So I kind of wanted to hear you speak a little bit to how have you seen maybe the international market change and adapt over the years, and do you see it or the global economy as becoming more accessible?
Yeah, I mean it's amazing how things have changed, right? I don't know whether you remember days when there were no cell phones. I came it's a full circle. For me, I'm a huge globalist. I love the way the market is moving towards a centralized model, a global initiative, a centralized, what you call as global village, where governments are as good as everybody has their own national interest and initiatives, which should and there must be initiatives which must be enacted. But what is happening more and more is the market is driving those initiatives. As much as people want to have protectionism, it's the market. There are stakeholders, and every one of us, whether big or small, are becoming a stakeholder in that global arena, which is very good, because now the services and products are going to flow to the most efficient place, rather than most, what do you call it, as the correct place, right? Where because of political or whatever reasons you might have to end up, buying or selling in some areas. what's happening is things in the last 10 years are moving towards efficiency. If you're not efficient, no matter how big and how powerful you are, the product and services are going to move away from you. And that's what is amazing, right? Then, what you're looking at is just excellence. Excellence of product, excellence of service, and excellence of process itself, rather getting bogged down by, hey, this is what you need to do, and that's what it needs to be done. Like, you could work from anywhere. I mean, look at my company. I have products coming from China, Malaysia, Thailand, Spain, Sweden, and I'm selling it to US, and so it's all a global network. One hurricane in China is going to impact my supply chain, or if there is a trade war between China and US, it's impacted me in a huge way, where I had to reroute my products to other countries, and the supply chain, because the customer still needs those products. People or doctors who want those gloves, or the labs who needs those gloves, have to buy those gloves. So how am I helping my customer buy the most efficient product, and at the same time not sacrifice the quality and service? So it's just so interconnected, which is what's exciting, right? The more people are trying to put protectionism around. I mean, it's not just US or China. Every one of the countries, whether you call it India or Malaysia or Europe, as much as protectionism is or nationalism is what they call politically is rising, globalism is trumping all of it, because efficiencies are the most important thing, and businesses are the first indicators of it, right? If you're not efficient and if you're not making the right product, they just move away. So you become a global citizen. You don't become an American or a Chinese or a Japanese. You just become a global citizen, and and that's how it should be. Politically you might have borders, but efficiency-wise,
we share the whole world, right?
Exactly, right? You go to Amazon, and you don't even know where the product is going to be shipped from.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time. It's like, oh, this is coming from Indonesia. Oh, I didn't know that. Cool, it'll be here in 1 week, and next thing I know, it's in my PO box. So
that's exactly the thing. I mean, what makes this whole process so much more exciting is the customer becomes the most important element. I was always taught that the customer is a king. Now the customer becomes the emperor. He doesn't care about what's going to happen, right? All he wants is efficiency. He wants the best pricing for the most efficient quality products, and which could be received as soon as possible, right? When you place that product which was shipped from Indonesia, your objective was to buy the best product at the cheapest price, and you got it.
Yeah. I mean, I think about that all the time, how amazing it is. And, we just have so much more power at the tips of our fingers, and we can order what we need, and all the research. And Google is an incredible tool. I am constantly researching and learning, from people that I never would have probably come in contact with had it not been for global technology, and the way that it's just really interconnecting everyone and everything. And it's a new space, and I like how you talked about how it's really coming down in business to what the client wants. And while part of me thinks, oh, that's a little scary, right? Like, another part of me thinks it's a great opportunity and challenge to just become thousandfold better at what we've already been doing as a society and in business and everything, right? There's kind of set standards, and now there's room to maybe expand upon those and build upon those.
You're absolutely right. That's why, you have the corporate governance, right? Where every corporate or every company becomes, they have their own ethical and moral codes. We used to have, and you probably remember this too. I mean, we used to always have, what are your, what's the value proposition? What's the main tagline for your company? Right now people are talking more about the business motto. They're talking about an ethical motto. So it's more about, every company in itself, and I've seen 9 out of 10 companies I work with, or most of the companies I work with, they, they all, have some great initiatives, and everybody would want to work ethically right. Nobody wants to buy from a company which is, using children as labor, or nobody wants to work with a company. Nobody wants to do it, even though it's cheaper. That tells
Mm-hmm.
you how companies are becoming more and more ethically, correct about certain things, and they are monitoring. And none of the governments can monitor it because it's such a global market. So more and more people are actually taking an initiative companies are taking an initiative on themselves to do that, which is amazing, right?
Self-accountability.
That's what's great about the whole thing. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
that's what's
awesome.
amazing about the whole thing. Yeah.
And I think of like the history of workers' rights and things like that. And I'm like, conditions in factories and things like that used to be so poor. And now I love that you talk about that. Like companies are even being proactive themselves. And that's a result of technology holding people accountable and increasing people being able to share, communication across channels, and get word out about important things. Um, so yeah, another thing I wanted to ask you was, can you speak to some of the business challenges that you've seen in your field of business, and maybe where do you dream of seeing some improvements made further?
I think that there is, still a lot of room to improve on, as I said, transparency in supply chain. It's come a
Mm-hmm.
long way, but especially for somebody who deals with, global supply chain and logistics, I am, part of it. So I'm part of the problem too. So, my whole goal, as much as I want to become a solutions provider, we are also focusing heavily on, software infrastructure, where we want to, keep the whole
Mm-hmm.
system from the point of, placing the order over here in US till the product is delivered. We are
Mm-hmm.
developing a system where you can track those shipments at every, moment, like what you do when you order something from Amazon.
Right.
We do container loads from overseas, but we want to do the same tracking method where you can have access to all of it. So, there is that's one thing where there is a room for improvement, and there is still a lot of, how should I say, inefficiencies are, I wouldn't say inefficiencies, but people haven't, taken up to technology as fast as what I, hoped or wished they would. So there is
Mm-hmm.
still a lot of, pushing which needs to be done, in the U.S. market. If you think that U.S. is taking so much of, effort, so you can imagine what
Mm-hmm.
Asia is going through. So there is still, as much as this globalization is working and the infrastructures, everything is moving in the right direction, I still think that, we still have a lot of room to improve and to go towards that globalization and efficiencies.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, well, great. Really quickly before we go, I like to ask if there are any initiatives or projects or products or any other business relevant items that maybe you're excited for personally in 2020. And if yes, how, if possible, and if you could use help, how could others help you? Because we like to share this out with our community. And if say if you're like, I'm looking for funding, or I need to hire an admin, or whatever it might be, or I'm looking to do research in this new area, um, we'll share that out and let people know, and you may get some resources back.
That is awesome. I am looking for anything which is going to make the supply chain efficient, right? Even though, I think we have a good system in place, I am still, aggressively looking for anybody who has ideas or any ideas or solutions to make this whole process, much more efficient.
Yeah.
Anybody who is, innovative, anybody who wants to take certain risks and try it out, and those are the people and those are the companies I'm looking forward to work with. And the things which I'm really, excited about, Kai, I'm starting my warehouse this year. We should have
Oh,
our
that's so
first warehouse
exciting.
up and running.
Hmm.
Thank you, thank you. We should have our first warehouse up and running by this April, and our second one by June, July timeframe. So those are the two exciting things I'm really, really, really looking forward to. So to answer your question, anybody who has some amazing ideas or solutions or whatever it is on supply chain transparency and efficiency, especially the global
Yes.
supply chain transparency, I'm all ears and hoping to talk to and meet them.